What's going on, boys? It is day 21 of reading through the book of Luke. Today we're going to be looking at just one passage in this chapter. This passage is a long one, but I have 4 different sections that I highlighted that I want to read and just share my thoughts about what I felt my spirit was being spoken to this morning. So this title is called The Destruction of the Temple and the Signs of the End Times. So this is a prediction that Jesus makes towards the teachers and Pharisees. And when they ask him, or actually his disciples that he was speaking to, and they are asking him about some of these signs, and Jesus makes a prediction about the destruction of the temple, which did actually happen in AD 70 in a direct kind of effect from the Jewish-Roman War. But more or less, this chapter is more about the end times. A lot of us have heard about what to expect in the end times, when the end is near, and when our time is up on this world, and Jesus will make his grand finale and his return to the earth. So, like I said, I have 4 different areas that I highlighted. I'm going to read them all at once, and then I'm going to kind of combine them together and share my thoughts on what I felt was being spoken to me. So first, I want to read verse 8 through 11, and then verse 16 through 19, verse 29 through 33, and then finally verse 36. He replied, "Watch out that you are not deceived, for many will come in my name, claiming I am he, and the time is near. Do not follow them. When you hear of wars and uprisings, do not be frightened. These things must happen first, but the end will not come right away." Then he said to them, "Nation will rise against nation, and kingdom against kingdom. There will be great earthquakes, famines, and pestilences in various places, and fearful events and great signs from heaven. You will be betrayed even by your parents, brothers and sisters, relatives and friends, and they will put some of you to death. Every one of you will hate you because of me, but not a hair on your head will perish. Stand firm, and you will win life." He told them this parable: "Look at the fig tree and all the trees. When they sprout leaves, you can see for yourselves and know the summer is near. Even so, when you see these things happening, you know that the kingdom of God is near. Truly I tell you, this generation will certainly not pass away until all these things have happened. Heaven and earth will pass away, but my words will never pass away. Be always on watch. Pray that you may be able to escape all that is about to happen, and that you may be able to stand before the Son of Man." So this is a lot of information, and the biggest question here is, what is the overall message? What does it say about God? What does it say about people? And what does it say about, really, what does it say about me? And what can I expect, from what Jesus is saying here about the end times? This is something that we are preparing for daily, because it's something that could happen, at any time. And so, first off, we get that, Christ warns us of false prophets that deceive us from him. So this is something that we see, a little bit in our modern world. People trying to deceive us away from Jesus and try and, draw us away from who Jesus is. I was in church yesterday, on Sunday, and my pastor was talking about, the difference between people just believing in God and people believing in Jesus. I think that he made this remark. He's like, "I think that people believe that there is a God, but the kind of, dropping it down to it being Jesus, people have a hard time kind of wrapping their heads around that, Jesus is the one true, he is God." And people often just say, "Well, I believe God," but, they don't really understand that Jesus is the one that they are supposed to be, making a remark to. And so, this can kind of be a major issue. So, Jesus tells us, he says, "Don't be deceived." He's like, "Stay on guard, stick to my words, stick to what I have promised you and what I have given you already." He tells them much destruction is going to occur, on the earth before the Son of Man occurs. He says there will be famines and wars and a lot of hatred towards other nations and kingdoms, and there will be earthquakes and just so many events that are going to occur. And, we see a little bit of this in our world today with wars that are happening across the world, and just a lot of just negative, just out views that people have towards each other. And so this is, another kind of great sign that, we're starting to kind of get to what Jesus has predicted here. And this was predicted 2,000 years ago. We hear of bad events worldwide and think that Christ is coming. I think that a lot of us think that, if we hear about a war that happens maybe across the globe, that, we hear about this war that outbreaks. They're like, oh, Jesus is going to come back soon. Or you hear a lot of the people saying, hey, Jesus is going to come back on this particular day. We can't make that prediction because we don't even know. Not even the angels know. Only God, the Father, knows when this will occur. He is the only one who has the authority and the knowingness of when this is going to occur. But he says that when this stuff does start to kind of take place, there's going to be a lot of destruction. There's going to be a lot of people who are going to turn away from you, people who are going to try and persecute you because of what you believe in. Jesus tells us in verse 16 that you'll be betrayed by people that you are really close to you. So sometimes even your own family, your friends, your relatives, you'll be martyred for your own belief. But because of your firm belief in him, you certainly will not perish, that you will continue and you will be saved, that you will win life. He literally says in his own words, stand firm and you will win in life. Stand firm on his word, on his scriptures, and on his commands to us. I shared this with a friend the other day, but we have identified in life that we can't be perfect, but we can be obedient. We can be obedient to who God is and to what Jesus is speaking to us, to his commands and to his teachings to us. Many signs will be viewable, and we will know that the kingdom is coming. So Jesus speaks of many signs. I didn't highlight them, but I'll share them real quick. About there will be a lot of wrath, a great distress in the land. Jerusalem will be trampled on by the Gentiles. There will be great signs on the earth. Nations will be in anguish and perplexity, roaring and tossing of the seas. There's just going to be so much chaos occurring across the globe that we will be able to see. And I love this parable that Jesus speaks about, this fig tree, that, we are able to notice when things are going to occur right now, about, some things that are simple, like the seasons. When we see the sprouting of leaves on a tree, we know that the spring and summer are coming, that the months of warmth are coming. We know that. Like, it's not something we have to say, well, I don't know. Like, I don't know if they're going to come this year. We wait and we watch what is already there, and we're able to make that prediction and say, okay, well, that's going to happen. And then finally, he says, you just be on watch and pray that you might be able to escape all that's about to happen, so that you may be able to stand before the Son of Man. And so there was a translation in my Harmony of the Gospels book that I wanted to read about this particular verse, and it says, the call to be faithful means the one who trusts Jesus and his work will stand approved before the Son of Man when he comes. And so in my notes, I said, be faithful on his everlasting word, that you will certainly be saved. So all of these things that Jesus speaks may seem a bit overwhelming, and they may seem as something that we can, sometimes be afraid of. But I don't believe Jesus tells us to be afraid. I believe he tells us to, be fearful of him, be fearful of who God is, and to put our faith in him. Because what eventually will happen, we look back to what is said in verse 16. He says, but because of these things that are happening, he's like, this persecution that you may face, because of your faith in me, you will certainly not pass away. We have learned so much through these parables and through these teachings that Jesus has gave, that he is the only one. He is the only one that we need to be putting our trust in. He is the only one that we need to be affirming our faith in, because he knows us more than we know ourselves. Again, be faithful on his everlasting word, and you will certainly be saved. So I think the biggest thing that we can do right now in today's world is kind of take a step back and kind of identify where we're at in life, and just say that, what am I doing to grow closer to God? I've seen the question go around a lot through people who do preaching in the streets, and it's a simple question, and it's, if Jesus were to come back today, would you go to heaven or to hell? And that's a very, very deep question, a very deep personal question, and I think it's something that we all would like to say we'd like to go to heaven today, but I think, based off of the way that we live our lives, I mean, we don't really know. We don't really know. So because of that question, and because of an answer that we might have, this should be a turning point for us. This should be a kind of a wake-up call for us, that we should say, you know what? I'm going to make the best of every day to assure that my faith is strong in him, so that when he does come back, I can assure that my belief is in him, and that he knows me and I know him. So that's today's message. I hope that it encouraged you. This passage is very interesting. I could talk about this for a long time, but I just wanted to share a couple of thoughts on this passage and I think what it means to our everyday lives. So our daily prayer is in the book of Jeremiah, verse 5 in chapter 1, which says, "Before I formed you in the womb, I knew you. Before you were born, I set you apart." Father, it is hard for me to follow this scripture to truly penetrate my heart. How are you cognizant of me? And even more so before I was born. I pray this would help me to know how secure I am in you. Help me to know that there is no way I can ever be taken from you or lose my relationship with you. I need to know this deep in my heart, so I always remain faithful to you. I ask to acknowledge of that how much you are aware of me, to solidify my commitment to you. Help me to be wholeheartedly devoted to you. So Jesus knows everything about us. He knows the good, he knows the bad, but he calls us into his ministry not to condemn us, not to tell us that we're bad people that are just so far gone. I believe he calls us to say, "Come and follow me, come back to me, come be part of what I have, part of the family of God, which is so glorious and so good and just everlasting." Jesus speaks that his word will never pass away, that the things of this world are temporary, and that when we place our faith in him, we will certainly continue on with him into the new world. That's today's message. I hope you guys have had a great Tuesday so far, and I will see you guys tomorrow. Peace out, boys.